Hi friends, today we'll discuss an important current affairs topic called All India Judicial Service. All India Judicial Service. Normally, when we looking into this All India services, normally Indian Administrative Service and Indian Police Service and Indian Forest Service, these are the services comes into our mind. Because these three all are All India Service posts. So, All India Service Post means they are recruited by the center, but they will work at both the state level and as well as the center level. So, this is what the meaning of All India Services. So, they are recruited at the union level, but they will work at the state level, and sometimes they can work at the central level also, that means union level also. Suppose take the case of state services, the person who is recruited under the state service can only work within the territorial jurisdiction of the state government. If a person recruited under central services, then he will work only with the center. But a person recruited under All India services, then though he is recruited by the union government and he is allotted to a particular state and he will work under the state, and he can also work with the union, and for a shorter period of time he can work with the other state also. So, such a flexibility is there for All India services. So, but these are the three services, IAS and IPS and IFS are All India services. Now, do we have this All India Judicial Service? And what about this service? Actually, we don't have this service, but lot of people in this country, including Law Commission, including Supreme Court, including Parliament members, wanted to bring this All India Judicial Service. Some people are opposing, some states are opposing, some high courts are opposing, but anyhow, there is a discussion in this country like whether we need an All India Judicial Service or not. And suppose if a person is recruited under All India Judicial Service, we can call it as IJS, then where he will work? He will work like the same other All India services. They are recruited by the union and they will be allotted to the state, and at the state level, they will work in a post not inferior than that of the district judge, not inferior than that of the district judge. Suppose take the case of IAS, at the district level you will be the topmost officer, and the highest revenue officer is the collector, and you will work in the key administrative positions at the state government and even at the central government. If you become the member of IPS, you will become the top IPS officer at the district level, and you will hold a key police positions at the state level, and even you can promote to the central level also. If you become an IFS officer with respect to the forest and environment, you will become the topmost officer at the district level, and after that you can hold the key positions both at the state level and central level. Likewise, if you become the IJS officer or officer recruited under Indian Judicial Services, will be hold the topmost judge post in the district. That means a district judge. District judge is not a single judge. There are some judges at the district level, those who consider as the district judge. So, the people who are not inferior to that of district judge will be appointed from this All India Judicial Service. That means their service starts from district judge, and it will go up. Now the point is, once you understand All India Judicial Services, the problem is why you need an All India Judicial Service. Did we tried any experiment in starting with this All India Judicial Service? And what is the problems that are associated with the All India Judicial Service, and what are the benefits that you will get with this All India Judicial Service? Okay. So, now I will discuss these topics in this today's class. The first point I have clearly mentioned, like under All India Judicial Services, the people recruited on a competitive exam, in a competitive exam at the All India level, and they will hold a post not inferior to that of district judge. And district judge is not a single post. Some judges at the district level, we consider them as a district level judges. But anyhow, when it comes to the appointments of the judges, there are three levels in our judiciary. Mostly higher judiciary and subordinate or lower judiciary. Again in higher you are having Supreme Court and High Court. Subordinate courts means district courts and the inferior to that of district courts. These are subordinate, or you can call it as lower judiciary also. So, how you appoint the judges to the Supreme Court and High Court, how you will appoint the judges to this lower court and subordinate court. The constitution is very clear about these appointments. The constitution is very clear about these appointments. See, if I go to the 1935 Act, and our main focus is this, I am focusing on this. In the 1935 Act, there was an article called a section at that point of time, sections, or you can call it as article 254. It deals about the appointment of the judges at this lower level, and this has to be done by the governor of the province, and High Court shall recommend those names. That means the appointment of the judges to the lower level is done by the governor of a province in consultation with the concerned High Court. That means in which state you are filling these lower judiciary posts, that High Court must be consulted. And when it comes to this Supreme Court and High Court, it is done by the President. And at that point of time, it was the Governor General and Viceroy they used to do. But after independence, we brought our own constitution, and in this constitution, actually the administration of justice and all were initially in the state list, but later it brought to the concurrent list. I will come to that later. But the point is, under 1935 Act, this appointment process is completely under state list, and initially in our constitution also it was under state list, but now at present it is under concurrent list. I will come to that later. But when we enacted our constitution, and you know the position of our constitution with respect to the Supreme Court and High Court judges appointment. The Supreme Court and High Court judges are appointed by the President of India on the recommendation of the collegium system. The collegium varies from Supreme Court to High Court. If it is about the transfers and appointment of the judges to the Supreme Court, the collegium is different, and if it is appointment to the High Court, then collegium is different. But anyhow, based on the recommendation of the collegium, President of India will appoint the judges, and if President of India don't likes, then he can turn down that name. That means he can send it again, but if the collegium refers the name again, then President of India has no option just to appoint the same person recommended by the collegium. That is not an issue. So, the appointment to the higher judiciary is done by the President of India on the advice of the collegium, and the constitution has prescribed some conditions, like if at all you want to be the Supreme Court judge and if at all you want to be High Court judge. But from where this pool of people are coming? Suppose for the sake of High Court, then you are taking it from the High Court bar, or you can take it from the district courts. For the Supreme Court, you are taking it from the various High Courts, and you are taking it from the Supreme Court bar also. And when it comes to the High Court, actually you know the conditions and all. You have to work as an advocate, and you must be a judge for a district judge, or otherwise if you want to be a Supreme Court, you know the conditions. So, based on that conditions, it is appointed. So, that is not an issue. Now, when it comes to the district judge or below the district judge, Article 233 of the Constitution, our present day Constitution, Article 233 deals about the appointment of district judge, and this is power is given to the state government. Now the state can prescribe the definite rules how this process should go on. And if it is some of the states, if it is comes to the district judge, it will be appointed by the governor in consultation with the High Court. If it is a post inferior to that of district judge, this will be appointed through a public service commission examination, and after that some of the high courts will conduct the interviews and the names will be recommended to the president, and names will be recommended to the governor and governor will appoint. It's depending on the state. But the point is, when you are appointing the district judges, what is the criteria that you are taking care? For some district judge and the inferior to the district judge, can't we improve the quality of this appointment? Because now various states are following a different methodology. Why can't you bring a uniform process for the appointment of the judges to the posts that are not inferior to that of district judge? So this was the question. Yes, you can appoint it, because when you are appointing a senior an administrator at the key positions and a police at the key positions, and why can't you appoint the same judicial officers at key positions also at this union level, like how you are appointing the IAS and IPS? This question has not arisen for so many years after independence, because at that point of time your administrative officer, that means IAS, used to exercise some sort of magisterial functions and even some sort of little bit judicial functions he used to exercise at one point of time. And when some functions of the judiciary has exercised by the administrator, then it has not necessitated for the governments, for the initial governments, to create a separate cadre or separate thing for these judicial officers, or we can call it as the judges. So that was the reason why when we have created this IAS and IPS, we haven't created IJS. That was the reason. But in the year 1951, we have brought an act called All India Services Act. All India Services Act. Now under this All India Services Act of 1951, so who comes under this All India Service, and what are their powers, what are their emoluments, and what are their rights, what are their protection, everything is mentioned in this. But this act was created under Article 312 of the Constitution, because the Article 312 of the Constitution is the genesis for All India Services and terms and conditions and their protection of the All India Services under Article 312. So under Article 312 they have brought this particular legislation. Now initially in the year 1951 there are two services under All India Services, IAS and IPS. Now what happened is, over a period of time we thought that we need to add some more services to this All India Services, because now we are having only IAS and IPS, because this IAS and IPS people will bring some sort of uniformity in the administration around the country. That is the reason why we have brought this IAS and IPS. But government thought that no, we need to bring much more services like this, because we need to pick up the talented pool from the country, and also we need to bring some sort of uniformity in the administration process. For that what we have done is, we have amended this particular 1951 All India Services Act in the year 1962 and we have created 3 more services under All India Services. One is Indian Service of Engineers, Indian Service of Engineers, Indian Forest Service, Indian Forest Service, the Indian Medical and Health Service, Indian Medical and Health Service. The act was amended in 1962. But the point is, if you just amend this All India Services Act of 1951, can you create these services? The answer is no. You cannot create an All India service just by amending the All India Services Act. Because tomorrow also if they bring Indian Judicial Service, they will amend this act. But the point is, just by amending this act, can you create the service? No. And in the Article 312 itself, the Constitution has made it very clear that the All India Services can be created by the Parliament only if the Council of States passes a resolution to that effect, where 2/3 members of the majority of the House should present and as well as voting. That means, in the total strength of the House, 2/3 of the members should present. In the total strength of the House, 2/3 of the members should present, and whoever is presenting, in that at least 2/3 of the people should vote. So this is very superior majority. This complete, it's more than what your constitutional amendment majority, because in constitutional amendment majority, the point is only more than half of the people should present, but how many are presenting? In the 2/3 should vote. But here 2/3 of the members should present, and whoever is presenting, in the 2/3 of the members should vote. And if Rajya Sabha passes such a resolution, then definitely we can create a service. In the year 1961 itself, Rajya Sabha passes a resolution to create these services, and we have amended the act in the year 1962. And accordingly, in the year 1966, this IFS came into existence, but we don't want to bring this Indian Service of Engineers and Indian Medical and Health Services. Okay. So this is the process of creating a new All India service. These were there in colonial times, so we have inherited. We have created this service. Now the point is, if at all we want an All India service, then by understanding this process, now you can simply say that, sir, if Rajya Sabha passes a resolution again, then we can create another IJS, then we can add one more IJS. But it's not that simple. It's not that simple as how we have created IFS. It's very difficult. I'll tell you why it is very difficult. That is why we are discussing this Indian All India Judicial Service now. But okay, before getting into the details of that, I'll give some information. In the 1958, in the year 1958, the then Law Commission has published a report on reforms of judicial administration. Report on reforms of judicial administration. In the year 1958, Law Commission. It recommended for creation of this All India Judicial Service. In the year 1978, again there was a recommendation by Law Commission. In the year 1986, there was a recommendation. In the year 2006, Parliamentary Standing Committee on Ministry of Personnel, Grievance Redressal and Pensions also given a recommendation, Parliamentary Standing Committee, that we need an Indian Judicial Service. In the year 1992, in the year 1992, Supreme Court of India, Indian Supreme Court has opinion that there must be an all India judicial service. In the year 1993, but the Supreme Court has, in its review petition, it is left it to the Union government to take a decision on the creation of this all India judicial service. The point is not that the present executive or the present government has an idea or suddenly he got some thought to implement this all India judicial service. No. Since 1958, there were various committees, Law Commission reports, Parliament of India, Supreme Court of India on various occasions has opinion that there must be an all India judicial services. I will come to the advantages and disadvantages later, but there was a recommendation. Now what happened is accordingly, we have brought a constitution amendment in the year 1976, and you all know this 42nd Constitution Amendment Act, we even call it as mini constitution, because we have amended many sections, and I will try to give some of the provisions which related to our topic under 42nd Constitution Amendment Act. But some of the amendments that were brought under 42nd Amendment Act was again taken back with the 44th Constitution Amendment Act done by the then Janata government, and you might aware about this fact. But whereas when it comes to our topic, I will give you some of the important amendments we have made. One amendment is administration of justice, comma, constitution and organization of Constitution and organization of all courts except High Court, comma, Supreme Court. Administration of justice, one aspect. Second one is constitution and organization of all courts except High Court and Supreme Court. That means when it comes to the except High Court and Supreme Court, when it other courts, that means district court and the other courts under the below this district court, now this entire items were brought into concurrent list. So earlier it was under state list, now they have brought it under the concurrent list. So that means now union government is also have a power to legislate on any matter related to the constitution and organization of this district courts, and again the courts which are subordinate to the district court. So union government has the power, because we have amended the constitution, and in these things we have done, and this amendment is valid. That means it is not illegal amendment, they have done in a procedure, they have followed an appropriate procedure. This was brought in the year 1976 under 42nd Constitution Amendment Act. Yes. Now they have brought some other changes also, I will come to that changes. Under the same Constitution Amendment, we have amended Article 312. So Article 312 deals with this All India services. And in this we have amended the Article 312 in such a way that, because I am not going to give all the provisions here, but we have amended in such a way that the law providing for the creation of All India judicial services even if it is against the chapter 6 of part 6 of the constitution, we can do it, and such law cannot be considered as a constitution amendment under article 368. I will explain it. The point is, now you can create all India services under this, but under this you can create all India judicial services also, like IAS, IPS, IFS. You can create all India judicial service. And for that now I can make the law. How I can make the law? Because it is under the concurrent list now. I can make the law. When I am making the law, that means when union is making the law, if it is against to the chapter 6 of part 6 of the constitution, then also it is valid, and whatever the changes that I am making in order to create that law cannot be considered as an amendment to the constitution called under article 368. First of all, I will explain this point. So when you are making law, if it is against this chapter 6 and part 6, that means what? Chapter 6 of part 6 of the constitution deals with this district judges. So how a district judge be appointed, it was mentioned in the article 233. So 233, 234, these articles comes under the chapter 6 of the constitution. That means earlier there was a provision in the constitution that the district judges are to be appointed by the governor of a state in consultation with the concerned high court. But now what you are saying is, now I got the power because I changed the list from state to concurrent. Now I can make any law to create the all India judicial service, even if it is contravention to the existing provision of the constitution. My law will be valid. My law will be valid, and whatever the law I am making, it should not be considered as an amendment to the constitution under article 368. Because why they have mentioned this provision is, if you consider it, see, you are amending the constitution. When you are creating a new service, means here in the services you are adding a new thing. But this is not considered as an amendment to the constitution under article 368, means constitution amendment can be done in broadly two ways. Again, in the second way there are many ways. One is under article 368, one is not under article 368. When under article 368, again you will have two different, and again here two different aspects. One is if it is passed by the both the houses of parliament with 2/3 majority, it's fine, but sometimes it must be passed 2/3 majority with half of the states. But there are some things which can be passed with a simple majority. That means once you consider this is not considered as a part of article 368, that means that law I can make with a simple majority in the parliament. So again I am summarizing the 42nd constitution amendment as far as Indian judicial service is concerned. Now the administration of justice and creation of the constitution and organization of the district courts now comes into the concurrent list. That means where union government is getting concurrent power along with the state government, and you know sometimes union government can have the more power because if it is in the concurrent list. But with that power they can create an all India judicial service, and for that they can make a law. Even if the law is contravention to the existing provisions of the constitution, I can make the law, and this law I can pass with a simple majority in both the houses of parliament, because I am saying it should not be considered an amendment for the purpose under article 368. So that means Indira Gandhi government under 42nd Constitution Amendment Act, they have made it clear that they are ready to go for this they are ready to go for creation of this all India judicial service, and for that they have cleared the entire route. Now if the union government just passes a simple law, if the union government just passes a simple law, then they can create a new All India Judicial Service. They can create a new All India Judicial Service. That they can do. Now under Article 312 itself, we have brought this amendment. Actually, Article 312 says that you can create only All India Judicial Service when Rajya Sabha passes a resolution to that extent. But in the Article 312 itself, we mention like, okay, we are going to create an All India Judicial Service, and this All India Judicial Service can be passed with the special resolution of the Rajya Sabha. But for that purpose, whatever the law that you are bringing, that must considered as a normal amendment, even if it is contravention to this. Now you will get a question. Sir, after all this explanation, do we really need a Rajya Sabha resolution to create another All India service? Answer is yes. Still you need a resolution to create All India Judicial Service. But the point is, once the resolution is passed, it cannot create the All India Judicial Service automatically. But once that resolution is passed for the All India Judicial Services, you need to bring a law to create that. That law cannot stopped by anybody, either with the existing provisions of the Constitution or with the methodology of the Constitution amendment. Simply I can place and I can pass the law. But why such a difficulty has not arisen when we created All India Forest Service? Because I will tell you, there is no such a position called All India Forest Service position in India prior to that. So, prior to the creation of Forest Service, there might be some forest officers in every state, but there was no such a position called forest, head of the forest to the district level, and it was completely done, it was completely under the control of state government. It was not that. But whereas when it comes to the judges, earlier the judges were there, and the judges, for the appointment of those district judges, there was a procedure. Now you are violating that procedure, you don't want to follow that procedure, you are creating a new procedure. When you are creating a new procedure, if the contravention is there with the new provisions and old provisions, then the issue comes. Now it is contravening. That is why where in the Constitution amendment itself, wherever we are bringing the procedure, there you are saying like, even if it is contravention to the Chapter 6 and Part 6 of the Constitution. Even when you are passing a resolution in the Rajya Sabha, the 2/3 majority and 2/3 members present and voting, that resolution can also be passed even if the subject is in contravention to the Chapter 6 and Part 6 of the Constitution. That means again I will come to the point. Under Chapter 6 and Part 6 of the Constitution, these provisions were there. These provisions were not deleted in the 42nd Constitution Amendment Act. That means one part of your Constitution says that district judges can be appointed by the governor with the consultation of State High Court. But the other provision of the Constitution says that the Union government, if the Rajya Sabha passes a resolution, the Union Parliament can simply pass a law to create the IJ, All India Judicial Service, even if it is contravention to anything. I no need to follow the Constitution amendment procedure. With a simple majority, I can pass it. That means your Constitution is saying about two things. So, Constitution is saying two versions for a particular subject. On the one hand, they are saying state can do. On the other hand, center can do. Now, that is the reason why this issue has arisen. That is the reason why this issue has arisen. Now, after 42nd Constitution Amendment Act, normally lot of provisions were again changed. in 44 Constitution Amendment Act. But these provisions with respect to the concurrent list, with respect to the amendments made to the Article 312, they are not disturbed. That means what were there under 42nd Constitution Amendment Act, still they were there. That means they were not touched by the Janata government. Now, as far as the present position is concerned, if Rajya Sabha passes a resolution and if Union government brings any legislation to create All India Judicial Service, they can do it. Simply they can do it. That is what the position of the Constitution today. Because no one said like the amendments were made to the Article 312 was unconstitutional. No one said, no one questioned it actually. So the present position is that if Rajya Sabha passes a resolution and they can simply make a law and they can create the All India Judicial Services. But they can do it in another way. The another way is through the Article 249. But this 249 could have been done prior to the 42nd Constitution Amendment Act. What is this 249? 249 says that the Union can make a legislation on a state item if Rajya Sabha passes a resolution. But now the district judge related items are not in state list, but now they are in concurrent list. So this is not valid. But prior to that they could have done. But still this Article 249 has its own limitation, like that law will exist for only 1 year, because every year Rajya Sabha has to pass a resolution again and again. So we will remove this possibility. Now the only possibility is that the law is very clear: pass a resolution, make a law and create the All India Judicial Service. But the point is, if someone questions the amendments that were made to the Article 312, till now no one questioned, but the moment you start this process, someone will definitely go and fight it in the Supreme Court. So what you are saying Article 312? Article 312 you are saying like, I will create this new law for creation of the All India Judicial Services. Aforesaid may contain such provisions for amendment of Chapter 6 of Part 6 as may be necessary for giving effect to the provisions of that law. No such law shall be deemed to be an amendment to the Constitution for the purpose of Article 368. That means I put it in a legal language just now whatever I have said. So I can create a law even if it is contravention to the Article 233, but it need not be under Article 360, it need not be considered under Article 368. The point here in this entire Article 312 is it violating the principle of federalism? Is it violating the principle of federalism? The point is, conveniently you amended the Constitution to bring this administration of justice and constitution and organization of the courts other than Supreme Court and High Court to the concurrent list. This is the amendment you have brought. Once you brought into the concurrent list, then you got the power to make a law on this. Otherwise, you don't have a power. But this Constitution amendment, is it valid? Because you can do any Constitution amendment. This is related to the federal aspect, and this federal aspect also half of the states passed. But the point is, even if you follow the technicalities of the passing of Constitution Amendment Act, if it is against the basic structure of the Constitution, can it be valid is a question mark. If this itself is not valid, then I will come to the Article 312. Under Article 312, what you are saying, I will make an effect to this All India Judicial Service even if it is contravention to the Article 233, that means existing provisions dealing with the district judge. Even if it is contravention to this existing provisions, is it not taking away the rights of the state? Is it not taking away the rights of the state? So, the point you need to understand is, you could have removed that provisions earlier, Article 233, so that you can follow the entire process like this. But we neither removed that nor implemented this. We neither removed that nor implemented this, but now we want to implement this, but you have to remove that, but now the issue has become so complex. So, this is some of the legal hurdle to the creation of All India Judicial Service, because the established procedure was already there. So, now the states thinks like, no, if union government will appoint a judge, then it is not at all good for us. That is what some of the states are saying. But anyhow, once you understood the entire process and what is the issue of this federalism, now I will explain some of the benefits of this All India Judicial Service. All India Judicial Service. See, I cannot say like All India Judicial Service is a panacea for every problem. There are many structural problems are there in Indian judiciary, but unfortunately whenever we are discussing about the judicial reform, our focus will always be on the top judiciary, that means the higher judiciary like Supreme Courts and High Courts. But we forget about there is a lower judiciary, and in lower judiciary, out of 4.4 crore cases that are pending, 3.8 crore cases are pending in the district level itself. This is the level of pendency at the district level, that means district and below district level. And you need more amount of courts, you need more number of judges, you need a much more greater infrastructure, you need a proper investigating agencies, and you need proper digitization. Like many things are necessary in order to bring the reforms in the judicial system. But one thing is this All India Judicial Service will give an opportunity for the induction of suitably qualified fresh legal talent through a proper All India merit selection system. Like how we are selecting for the IAS and IPS and IFS officers, likewise you can select a meritorious candidates by conducting a test at the All India level. You can select those people, you will get a meritorious people. Meritorious people. Second one is, it creates a pool of talented people. It creates a pool of talented people, and this pool of talented people can be considered for the promotion to the higher level of judiciary like High Court and Supreme Court. The point here is that in the present day system, now the judges are appointing themselves. Sometimes government not blaming directly, but some in the society people are arguing, when judges appoint the judges among themselves, where is the transparency? They can appoint whomever they want. That is the reason why they brought this National Judicial Appointment Commission Act, Constitution Amendment. It was struck down by the Supreme Court. Then judiciary say, no, if you appoint, then you will appoint your people. Then if judges appoints, the people are arguing like judges may appoint their own people. So the point is, when judges are appointing, the allegation is that judges may appoint their own people. When government is involving, government may appoint their own people. The problem is there is no definite pool, there is no definite talented pool to appoint the judge, to appoint as a judge. That is the reason why this entire issue is coming. And the same issue is not coming when you appoint some higher secretaries to the various ministries at the national level, because there is a huge pool. And here also you will get a huge pool. Now in this pool, with the immediately with whatever the intelligence reports and everything, with their track record, you can directly promote, so that we can remove all these unnecessary argument like the judge is appointed this own person or the government has appointed their own person. So these things will go. You will get a talented pool, and these people's track record is there to everyone, and they are all India based, they are meritorious. So definitely you can take. So that pool can be used for the appointment to the High Court and Supreme Court at later stages. So it removes that problem in appointment to the even judges to the higher level also. Next. It creates a centralized process, a centralized recruitment system, because in some states whenever the recruitment process is happening, lot of doubts, lot of mischiefs, so lot of allegations they are coming. But if it is a transparent centralized recruitment process, no, you can contain all these things. One more thing is, High Court is relieved from its administrative functions like the appointing the judges, because when there is a huge pendency, when there is so many cases are there, you need to take care about many of the judicial functions. Why the high courts are so interested in appointing these people? And when, because any institution, whether it is government, executive or legislative or judiciary, if you have conferred some power, they don't want to relieve that power. They don't want to lose that power. That's what the nature of the power is. And likewise the high courts are not interested in that. But if you relieve the high courts out of this recruitment process, they can concentrate on their own judicial process and they can bring some sort of efficiency in the administration of the justice. So don't enter too much into the administration, just focus on judicial aspects. Now the high courts are so much involved in these administrative aspects. So these are some of the things, and anyhow the 42nd Constitution Amendment Act that has made it clear, like if you just bring a bill, then you can pass a legislation. But the point is, if someone questions the amendments that were made under Article 312, then it's a problem. Okay. Now, then what are the demerits of this system? Demerits of this system. Demerits. What are the demerits? The first demerit is, as I said, it is affront to federalism. Because till these many days it was under the state government. But if someone questions it in the Supreme Court, will the Supreme Court hold the 42nd Constitution Amendment? That is how you have brought the list of items from state list to concurrent list, and in that district judge is there, district court, and we don't know. But now the states are enjoying that right. Now they may get a problem. So affront to the federalism. Second one, some states are arguing the centralized recruitment would not be able to address the unique concerns that the individual state may have. The centralized recruitment would not be able to address the problems or the unique concern that a particular state is having, because some states want to give more representation to some of the regions in that particular state, or some of the communities, whether it may be women or ST or SC or anything. And the most important problem what they are raising is this language and cultural aspects. I am not saying like judgment should be based on your customs and culture. I am not saying like your judgment should be based on cultures and customs. But the point is, when you are dealing with the people, when you are dealing with the problems of the people, then definitely you must know this language and culture. But some people arguing, no, 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 what is happening with IAS and IPS when they are working well, then what's the problem with IGS? There people are, they are giving training in language and now they are learned everything, now they are able to do everything in the district, both police officer and the collector or the revenue department officer, they are doing well. So you can do same with this All India Judicial Service also. Why you are so specific about language and culture? The people who are supporting the Indian Judicial Service, they are arguing. But the point is, if you are an IAS or if you are an IPS, just you will take the decision, but ultimately the entire inputs that are necessary for you will be prepared by your subordinates. You directly getting into the, you don't directly getting into the field, you don't directly do the survey, there is a huge machinery they will do and they will bring the necessary inputs in whichever language you understand and ultimately they take the decision. I am not saying like the IAS and IPS, they are not learning the local languages, but it's not such a big problem for the IAS and IPS, even if they are not so proficient in the language, even if they are not so good at the cultural aspects of that state. But whereas when you are a judge, then you are the one literally looking into all the aspects of the case. Though some of the items are listed, but today the Supreme Court is arguing, the Chief Justice of India has said, you must Indianize the judicial system, and the Indianization means it must be so simpler. The people must understand the court proceedings, and even at the district level, you need to promote the regional language. People must understand the judgment that you are writing. Such type of reforms are now the Supreme Court is proposing and most of the legal luminaries are proposing. Because if you are looking into the Indian judicial system today, even after getting the judgment, it is very difficult for you to understand that judgment. You can't understand. If any judiciary, maybe if any district court has sent any notice to your home, it is very difficult for you to understand that notice also. Because the judicial language is such a very difficult language. It's not only difficult in terms of English, but it is also difficult in terms of terminology. Even a person with good English cannot understand the language which you are using. Why can't you simplify it? And as long as you don't simplify it, people may not have a complete faith in the judicial system. The people who can manipulate with all these things, they can get a benefit in this system. And on the one hand, when you are saying like the entire processes, systems, proceedings must be simplified, it must be in a local language, it must be in a simplified format. And on the other hand, if you don't allow this local language and local cultural aspects into the district judge, then it is very difficult for the judge to decide the things. Again, someone needs a translator. This is what the states are arguing. Yes, this point is having some weight, because this is not after all like we are IAS and IPS, but this is something different. So this is one of the important aspects. So this language and cultural aspect, so it is belonging to a different type of point compared to that of administration. So you need to take care about this point. Next one is the very important point, separation of power. This point applicable even to the higher judiciary also. See, there is a debate going on in this country, even after Supreme Court struck down, who has to appoint the judges? Because legislative, executive, judiciary, these are the three different wings of our constitutional setup. Now every institution is having their own jurisdiction. Now there must be a separation always between legislature, executive and judiciary. When the separation is there, then this judiciary is having more and more responsibility, especially in a constitutional form of government, and that too in a federal government, because they need to balance both the state and center. Now the point is, who has to appoint the judges in this country? Because if executive is intervening into this area, then immediately judges are saying it is against the independence of judiciary, so it is the violation of basic structure of the constitution. So that is the reason why they have struck down this NJAC. But still government and some of the people believes like, no, across the world judges cannot appoint themselves, it is the government has to appoint them. But still it is a debatable topic. And when this topic is debatable, now at present the judiciary is taking care about the appointment of this. Now if you create an all India judicial service, then who will take care about this recruitment process? Is it the executive or is it the judiciary? If executive is taking care, is it not violation of the separation of power? How come an executive appoints the judges to the lower judiciary? Then immediately you may ask, sir, now governor is also appointing, no? Yes, now governor is appointing, state high courts are consulted. But when you centralize the process, then definitely even today also in the present appointment of the judges, some executive role is there. But we don't want to allow that executive role at the national level. But if you centralize this process and if you completely giving it to the executive at the central level, then the question arises, what is this separation of power under our constitution? So this is one of the other important aspect of this all India judicial services. But lot of people are suggesting, yes, whatever the language and cultural problem, with a proper training we can definitely solve this problem. That is not a big issue. Perhaps we need to bring this reform. But anyhow, so the positives and negatives I have said, and if the question is about critically examining this all India judicial services, then you can quote either of the points. But when it comes to, I think recently the government has submitted some notice, some report, not report, but some statement. They have produced some statement in the house by saying like some states like Haryana, Mizoram has supported for the creation of all India judicial service, but some of the states like Arunachal Pradesh, Himachal Pradesh, Karnataka, Madhya Pradesh, Maharashtra, Meghalaya, Nagaland has opposed. Some of the high courts like Tripura, Sikkim high courts are supported, but around 13 high courts are opposed. And in total, some states and high courts are agreed, some states and some high courts are not agreed, and the proportionate number of not agreed people is very high. And some of the states and some of the high courts are asking for some reforms, that means some modality change must happen in this entire reform process. But this is all about the all India judicial services. So the constitutional position and what is the difference between earlier other all India services and this all India services. Now where are we as far as the legal point is concerned, and what type of questions you may get, that means what type of issues you may get if you proceed with this all India judicial service, and the advantages and the not disadvantages, but the problems that you get when you implement the all India judicial services. So this is what about the all India judicial services. Thank you.
Amrita IAS Academy.